The worst crush of my life was on my best friend's mother. I was 18. And the terrifying part wasn't how badly I wanted her. It was the quiet, persistent suspicion that sometimes, when she looked at me too long, or said my name in that low, thoughtful way, she might have wanted me a little too. Back then I told myself that was impossible. Adults didn't look at 18-year-olds like that, especially not their daughter's best friend. So I buried the thought, graduated, and moved away. Part 1. I let 4 years pass without seeing her, which means tonight is the first time we've been in the same house again since the summer everything got complicated. The house looks exactly the same. Same narrow hallway. Same framed photos along the wall. Same kitchen at the end where I spent far too many evenings pretending I needed another glass of water just so I could stand in the doorway and watch her cook. The graduation party is loud behind me. My best friend Rachel, whose mother I was disastrously in love with, is outside somewhere accepting hugs and champagne from half the city, which leaves me standing alone in the quiet kitchen, quietly watching her mother, Claire Caldwell, as she finishes making a pie. She hasn't seen me yet. Her sleeves are pushed up, flour dusting the back of one hand as she carefully braids the crust. The motion is slow, practiced, familiar enough that something painful twists gently in my chest. The last 4 years disappear instantly. And suddenly I'm 18 again, leaning against that counter while she teaches me how to knead dough, trying not to stare at her mouth, trying not to imagine what it would feel like if she stepped closer, trying very hard not to notice that sometimes, she watched me back. The first time she taught me how to knead dough, I ruined it. Completely. I was pressing too hard, folding it wrong, dusting the counter with too much flour. She watched for a while from the other side of the counter, amused. "All right," she said finally. "Stop." I froze with both hands buried in the dough. She walked around the island and stopped behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her before she even touched me. "Move your hands," she directed. I did. She placed hers over mine. Her palms were warm, firm. She pressed my hands into the dough and guided the motion slowly. "Like this," she murmured, her breath on my ear. "Fold. Press. Turn." The rhythm was calm and deliberate. I tried to focus on the dough. Unfortunately, my brain had decided the more urgent situation was the fact that her chest was brushing against my upper arm every time she leaned forward. "You're too fast," she said softly. "I'm not." "Yes, you are," she whispered. She adjusted my grip, fingers sliding along mine. "Dough hates being rushed." I swallowed. "I'll remember that," I croaked. "You won't," she laughed lightly. "You're impatient." She leaned slightly closer to see the dough, her breath brushing the side of my neck in the process. For one horrible second I forgot how hands worked. The dough collapsed under my grip. She laughed quietly behind me. Then she did something strange. She didn't step away. Instead, she kept her hands over mine and repeated the motion again. "Slower. Fold. Press. Turn." And this time she said my name softly, like she was reminding me to stay in my body. I remember thinking very clearly, if she notices how fast my heart is beating, I will die. The memory dissolves, bringing me back to the present. She glances up. Our eyes meet. Recognition flashes immediately across her face. Her mouth curves slightly. "You used to look exactly like that when you were thinking too hard." My pulse jumps. "Look like what?" She gestures lightly with her hand. "Like you wandered somewhere interesting and forgot to bring your body with you." I freeze, because that means something unsettling. She remembers that look. The one I used to get when I couldn't stop staring at her. The only thing she doesn't know is that she was the reason for it, which raises the question I buried 4 years ago. Did she notice my crush? Or worse, did she feel it too? Part 2. The pie is done by the time the second wave of guests arrive. I know this because she pulls it out of the oven while 3 different people drift through the kitchen, asking where the drinks are. The room fills with the smell of warm blueberries and sugar. She sets the pie on the counter and steps back to let it cool. "Don't touch it yet," she tells someone reaching for a knife. "I wasn't." "You were." They laugh and retreat. The kitchen empties again. I'm leaning against the counter with a glass of water I've barely touched.
She glances over at me.
You've been very quiet. I'm observing before I commit. Her mouth tilts. You still do that? She chuckles. Still do, I answer back smiling. She studies me another moment, then reaches past me to grab a plate from the cabinet. The movement brings her closer. Not touching, but close enough that I catch the faint scent of citrus from whatever lotion she uses. My brain immediately decides this is an emergency. You're doing it again, I say. Doing what? Standing too close. She pauses with a plate halfway out of the cabinet.
Oh.
Her eyebrow lifts slightly. Do you want me to move? I hesitate.
No.
She finishes pulling the plate out and sets it beside the pie. Then I suppose we'll survive.
She jokes.
Someone laughs outside. Music shifts. The sound of Rachel's voice floats in through the open back door. Neither of us looks toward it. Instead, she leans one hip against the counter beside me. Rachel said you're living in the city now.
Claire states.
Yeah. Do you like it? Most days. And the other days?
She asks.
Not so much. She huffs a quiet laugh. That sounds familiar. You don't like cities? I ask her. I like visiting them, she says. But living in them makes me restless. Why? Too many people who think they're the main character. I smile to spite myself. That's harsh. It's accurate. She contends. Her shoulder shifts slightly as she adjusts her weight. Our arms brush. The contact is light, accidental, but the sensation shoots straight through my nervous system. And suddenly I'm remembering something else. The afternoon we painted the back fence was hot enough to make the air shimmer. Rachel had abandoned us halfway through the first section, disappearing inside with her phone, which left me and her mother standing in the backyard with 2 paint rollers and an unreasonable amount of sunlight. The radio was playing something old and cheerful. We had been working quietly for a while when she said, "You're concentrating very hard." "It's a fence," I said. "Yes. That requires concentration." She laughed under her breath and rolled paint along the wood. I wiped sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. A minute later she said, "Hold still." I froze. She stepped closer. Her thumb brushed along my cheekbone. "There," she said. "What?" "Paint." My brain stalled.
Oh.
But when she finished wiping the paint away, she didn't step back right away. Her eyes mapped my face, then flicked down.
Just briefly.
To my mouth, then back to my eyes. Something electric passed through the air between us, the kind of silence that feels too full. Then she stepped away abruptly and grabbed the roller again. "You looked like a small accident," she said lightly. I quietly nodded. For the first time, I entertained the thought that she might see me too. "Where did you go just now?" Her voice pulls me back to the present day in the kitchen. I blink.
"What?"
"You disappeared." "Did I?" She nods slightly. "Your face has a certain look when you're remembering something." My pulse jumps. "You're very observant. I warned you." I take another bite. When I glance up, she's watching me. Not casually. Like she's waiting to see exactly how I'll react. "You're staring again," I say. "Am I?" "Yes." She tilts her head slightly, considering that. Then she says, calm as ever, "You always did eat like you were thinking about something else." That catches me off guard. People notice how I eat. I do. The words land softly between us. I set the fork down. "Why?" Her gaze holds mine. Then she looks away and wipes her hands on the towel again. "Habit," she says. The answer is too quick. I lean back against the counter. "You used to stay up late that summer," I say. She folds the kitchen towel neatly and sets it down. "Yes." Her voice is neutral. "Sometimes," I continue carefully, "I'd come downstairs and you'd already be here." Now she looks at me. A deeper look. And I feel the shift instantly. That summer, the house had a strange rhythm after midnight. Everything quiet, lights low, my best friend asleep upstairs. Sometimes when I wandered into the kitchen for water, she was already there. making tea. The first time she glanced up and said, "You're awake too."
Good.
Most people bore me after 10. After that, it became a habit. Midnight conversations. Just the two of us at the kitchen table while the rest of the house slept. We talked about everything. Cities she'd lived in. Books I pretended to understand. Plans I didn't really have. One night she asked, "What do you want to do when you leave here?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Just leave." She laughed softly. "That's not a plan. It's a starting point," I said, joining in the laughter. She studied me over the rim of her mug. "You're going to surprise people," she murmured. "With what?" "With how much you notice." I smiled faintly. That's a polite way of saying I stare too much. She didn't answer right away.
Just looked at me.
Then she said quietly,
"No."
"It means you pay attention." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. Before I could stop myself, I said, "You're the only person here who talks to me like I'm not temporary." The words settled between us. She went very still. Her eyes lifted to my face, an unreadable expression flashing in them. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she stood up. "It's late," she said gently. "You should get some sleep." I started to get up too. As I passed her, my hand brushed her arm, completely by accident. But she reacted like the contact burned. Not dramatically. Just a sharp stillness. Her fingers closed slightly around my hand, thumb brushing my inner wrist before she seemed to remember herself and let go. "Good night," she said quickly, voice thick. The next night the kitchen was empty. And after that, the midnight conversation stopped. Back to the present. She hasn't moved. Her eyes are still on mine. "You remember those nights?" I say quietly. Her expression doesn't change. "Yes." The word lands softly, but it's enough, because it tells me something I didn't know before tonight. Those conversations mattered to her too. Neither of us speaks for a moment. Then she says carefully, "We stayed up very late that summer." I let out a small breath. Outside, someone shouts my best friend's name again. Music swells. The party goes on. Inside the kitchen, the air feels very still. And for the first time tonight, a new question presses quietly at the back of my mind. If she noticed everything back then, what else did she try not to notice? Part 3. The party stretches long past sunset. Music drifts through the house in uneven waves. Laughter rises and falls. I lose track of how many times I refill my drink, or how many times I notice her watching me. Not obvious. Never obvious.
Just small things.
When I'm talking to people, I can feel it sometimes, that quiet pull of attention. When I glance toward the counter, she's already looking away, reaching for a bottle opener or wiping a glass that doesn't need wiping. At one point, a girl from my old debate club corners me near the fridge. We haven't seen each other in years, and she's telling me about graduate school somewhere far away, gesturing wildly with a red cup. I nod, smiling politely. But over her shoulder, I see the look, the one that stops me mid-thought. Claire is standing by the sink again, talking to another parent, but her eyes slide past them for a second, toward us, toward the way the girl's hand is briefly resting on my arm. The look is quick, gone immediately, but it's sharp enough that something warm and dangerous sparks low in my stomach. Territorial. The word lands in my head before I can stop it. I look away quickly, because if I don't, I might start smiling like an idiot. A couple of hours pass. People start leaving in clusters. Music lowers. Lights soften. The loudest part of the party dissolves into small conversations on the porch and near the driveway. Inside the kitchen, the aftermath begins. Half-empty cups. Crushed napkins. Plates stacked in uneven towers near the sink. I find myself there without really deciding to be. Rinsing glasses. Running water over sticky countertops. She joins me after a minute, wordlessly handing me another stack. "Didn't expect you to end up on cleanup duty," she says lightly. "I owe the house," I reply. She hums softly at that. We work side by side. The quiet between us is different now. Not awkward, just thick. Charged. At some point, Rachel stumbles into the kitchen with the exhausted joy of someone whose big night is finally over. She drops into a chair at the table. You two look suspiciously domestic, she drawls. I laugh. Her mom rolls her eyes. Go to bed, she tells her. Rachel chuckles, but stands anyway. Halfway to the stairs, she pauses. Looks between us. Something unreadable flickers across her face. Then she smirks faintly. You know, she says lazily, I always wondered why you two stop having those late-night kitchen talks. My stomach drops. Before I can say anything, she chuckles and disappears upstairs. The comment lingers in the room like smoke. For a second, neither of us moves. I become very aware of how close we're standing. Claire's hand is still resting on the counter between us. Mine is a few inches away. Neither of us looks anywhere but at each other. Then she clears her throat softly and turns back to the sink. Eventually the kitchen is clean. The house grows quiet. Only the refrigerator hums softly. She thanks me for helping. For a second it feels like we're both waiting for something else to happen. It doesn't. So I clear my throat lightly. Good night, Claire. Her eyes lift to mine. Good night. The word is soft. I turn toward the hallway, but I can still feel her watching me as I walk upstairs. I change and slip into bed, but sleep doesn't come. My skin feels too tight. My mind keeps replaying the look she gave that girl back at the party. The way her hand brushed mine in the kitchen while passing a plate. The way Rachel reminded us of our late-night kitchen talks. After 20 minutes of tossing in bed, I give up. I slip downstairs for water. The lights in the kitchen are dim now. Only the small lamp over the counter is on. Claire's still there, leaning against the counter with a glass of wine. Barefoot. Hair slightly looser than before. For a second, neither of us speaks. Then she smiles softly. Couldn't sleep either? No, I couldn't. I grab a glass from the cabinet and pour water. But I don't leave.
Neither does she.
The quiet stretches. Then she says, about Rachel's comment earlier? I glance up. She's watching me carefully. I had wondered when she'd bring that up. She wasn't wrong.
She says, yeah.
I agree. She wasn't. My fingers trace the rim of the glass. You used to come down almost every night that summer, she says quietly. I remember. You'd sit on the counter. And you'd make us tea. I remind her. Her mouth curves slightly. Silence again. She shifts slightly. Her hand ends up resting on the counter between us. Close enough that our fingers almost touch. You stopped coming, she says. Voice gentle. I let out a slow breath. I thought I was imagining things. Her eyes sharpen slightly. What things? I hesitate, but the night is too quiet now.
Too honest.
The way you looked at me sometimes. The words barely leave my mouth before her fingers are brushing mine. Electric. I swallow. I thought if I kept showing up, I continue softly, I might do something stupid. Her voice drops. Like what? My eyes lift. And the truth comes out before I can stop it. Like kiss you. The kitchen goes very still. Her breath catches. Then she says the most dangerous thing she could possibly say. I stopped the tea nights, she murmurs, because I was starting to think about it too. Every nerve in my body lights up. Her hand is still touching mine now. Not accidentally anymore. Intentional. Her fingers sliding between mine. Warm. You were 18, she says softly. I was trying very hard to be a responsible adult. She continues. How'd that go? I ask, breathless. Her eyes move slowly over my face. Then lower. Then back up again. She husks. Resisting you. It's been a losing battle. Especially tonight, she adds quietly. My pulse was pounding now. The air between us ignites. I shift closer, without thinking. Now we're standing barely a foot apart. Her voice lowers. That girl earlier. I blink. What? She gestures vaguely toward the living room. The one you were talking to. Understanding dawns slowly. Don't tell me you were jealous? The word makes her cheeks flush slightly. But she doesn't deny it. Instead, she exhales. You have no idea how difficult it is, she says, voice low, to watch someone I remember at 18 suddenly being looked at by everyone else. My throat goes dry. Her fingers continue to caress mine. And realizing, she continues softly, that I don't want them to. Her fingers tighten on mine. The confession lands deep in my chest. My hand moves before my brain catches up, resting lightly against her wrist. Her breath stutters. "Say something," she whispers. "I never stopped wondering what would have happened if I'd kissed you back then." I say. And her eyes darken immediately. "And now?" she asks, voice low. Now I'm trying very hard not to do it," I say in a shaky whisper. Her answer comes without hesitation. "Then don't." She pleads brokenly. The word hits like a spark in dry air. I close the distance, slow enough that she could stop me. She doesn't. Her hand rises, touching my cheek.
Soft. Warm.
And then we kiss. It isn't tentative. It isn't careful. Years of restraint break all at once. Her mouth is warm and sure against mine, fingers sliding into my hair as she pulls me closer. My back hits the counter softly. Her body presses into mine. She is all soft curves and delicate perfume. Warmth. The faint taste of sweet red wine still lingers on her lips. My hands slide to her waist without thinking. She makes a quiet sound into the kiss that sends heat racing through me. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing harder, foreheads resting together. "My goodness, you are trouble," she murmurs. Then she says something that stops me cold. "Rachel asked me once, you know." My heart stutters. "Asked you what?" Her thumb brushes slowly along my jaw. Whether I realized how obvious it was. My stomach flips. How obvious what was? Her smile is slow, knowing. The way you looked at me. My brain scrambles. "She knew." She said she thought you had a crush. Her eyes hold mine. I said she was imagining things. She reveals. A pause. I let out a shaky laugh. "So she knew before we did." I say. "Probably." Silence again. But different now. Charged with possibility. My hand slides slowly along her waist. She doesn't stop me. Instead, she leans in again,
Kissing me deeper this time.
slower, hungrier, her fingers gripping my shirt, my pulse roaring in my ears. When we finally break apart again, her voice is softer, almost breathless. "We should probably stop." Probably. Neither of us moves. The kitchen light glows warmly around us. The house sleeps upstairs. As Claire's hand rests on my heart.
Hi ladies, thanks for sticking around till the end. I'm just one African storyteller, sharing love stories the world told us to hide. Please subscribe and help keep these voices alive, one story at a time.